When the past echoes loudest, as Deion Sanders battles health struggles, ex-wife Pilar breaks silence with subtle message on healing and closure. A legacy in conflict, a life in transition. 12 years after one of sport's most publicly turbulent divorces, a silent conversation seems to be unfolding, not in the courtrooms, but through Instagram stories, cryptic captions, and emotional reels. The principal players? NFL legend turned college football coach Deion Coach Prime Sanders and his ex-wife, Pilar Sanders. Once a power couple in sports and entertainment, they now stand as distant observers of each other's journeys, each shaping the lives of their children in dramatically different ways. In recent weeks, Deion Sanders has been quietly fighting a significant health scare. But amid his silence, whispers from the past have begun to resurface. On June 25th, just a day before the 12th anniversary of their divorce, Pilar Sanders shared a cryptic yet emotionally profound Instagram story, an edited reel layered with spiritually potent messages that many took as a subtle, soul-bearing response to her former husband's recent life reflections. And just like that, the embers of a long-cooled public narrative began to glow once again. You're not just choosing a partner. Deion Sanders ignited curiosity back in May when he posted a cryptic quote to Instagram. You're not just choosing a partner. You're choosing a mirror, a teacher, a teammate, and a co-architect of your future. Hashtag Coach Prime. The post didn't carry names, but for those who followed the winding tale of Coach Prime's personal life, the message didn't feel random. It came shortly after a landmark moment in his family. His son Shedeur was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, marking a new generation of Sanders making their mark on the NFL. For Deion, this wasn't just a celebration of fatherhood. It felt like a reckoning with legacy. Was it advice for his sons? A reflection of personal regrets? Or something else entirely? For Pilar, the moment must have carried weight. She reposted a reel not long after, featuring emotionally intense film clips underscored by a quote from spiritual strategist Robert Edward Grant. The universe doesn't make mistakes. Some are karmic, here to challenge you, to break you open so you can grow. It wasn't just the content, it was the timing, tone, and spiritual precision of the message that raised eyebrows. Pilar, often known for keeping her silence since the messy 2013 divorce, rarely steps into public discourse. But when she does, it's deliberate. This post didn't name names, but the subtext rang loud and clear. In a world of curated content and veiled references, this was her voice, tender, reflective, and finally unburdening. Healing from a high-profile wound. The Sanders split back in 2013 was one of the most high-profile celebrity breakups of the era. Marked by custody battles, court appearances, and leaked private moments, it gripped tabloids and divided fans. What was once glitz and power transformed into Cold War and emotional attrition. And yet, Pilar never used her platform to attack. She chose instead to focus on her children, particularly Shedeur and Shiloh, both of whom are blossoming under their father's football dynasty, while also remaining deeply connected to their mother. Pilar, a former model and fitness coach, has quietly celebrated her son's triumphs, reposted family memories, and stood tall in the background. She could have made noise. Instead, she chose grace. But make no mistake, silence does not always mean peace. The reel she shared wasn't just a random act of social media engagement. It felt layered, intentional, almost like a spiritual release. When she reposted the quote, "Some are soulmates, not always romantic but life-changing," it was clear, Pilar was speaking to a history that never quite settled. Coach Prime's counterpunch. No room for ungrateful spirits. Deion Sanders didn't take long to respond, not with direct words, but with tone. Shortly after Pilar's reel gained traction, he took to Instagram again, this time with a sharper edge. An unthankful spirit gives off a scent that you can smell from miles away. Rid yourself of ungrateful and unthankful, unappreciated people because they will soon affect your peace. The quote felt anything but subtle. It had the sting of a man done with nostalgia, weary from the emotional toll of past entanglements. His tone made it clear, he wasn't here to relitigate old feelings. He was, in his words, fighting to protect his peace. But beneath the stern veneer was a man physically and emotionally worn down. Coach Prime has been recovering from a still undisclosed health issue, one that, according to his own words, is on a whole another level. He recently revealed that he's lost 14 pounds, and there's still no official diagnosis publicly available. He's retreated to his Texas home, relying on the support of his sons Shiloh and Deion Jr. while stepping away from Colorado football operations. Walking it out, more than just a phrase. On June 25th, Sanders offered the world a three-word update. Walking it out. No explanations. No diagnoses. Just motion. That post, while brief, said everything about where he is now. It was both a physical update and a spiritual declaration. At this stage in his life, Deion isn't looking back, he's limping forward. It's not about rehashing romantic ruins. It's about regaining control of a body that once made him a superstar and now threatens to betray him. And yet, as Coach Prime walks forward, Pilar seems to be walking through. Her Instagram stories suggest she's still piecing together the emotional mosaic of her past, understanding, reframing, and maybe, finally, forgiving. The distance between reflection and survival. For many, Pilar's message came across as a gentle mirror, one that reflects on a relationship filled with meaning but also mistakes. For Deion, the response was more like a boundary, a wall against unwanted energies during a time when strength feels fleeting. This juxtaposition speaks volumes about how each of them is processing the same past in entirely different ways. Pilar is revisiting wounds with spiritual balm. Deion is shutting the gates to avoid further scars. Their children remain the bridge between them. Shadur, the rising NFL rookie, carries his father's athletic instincts and his mother's inner poise. Shiloh, also preparing for the NFL, is a hybrid of both, fierce, focused, and emotionally grounded. A house divided, a family still watching. The public might never get the full truth behind the Instagram posts, the silent pauses, or the pointed captions. But what's clear is this: the past isn't done echoing. Not for Pilar, not for Deion. As Coach Prime prepares for another season, possibly the toughest yet, his body and soul are fighting parallel battles. And as Pilar reflects on the path they once walked together, her messages carry a weight that only time and pain can sculpt. What we're witnessing isn't just a former couple trading posts. We're seeing two architects of a once shared life standing at opposite ends of a bridge, each with their own kind of wisdom. One says, "Let go and keep moving." The other whispers, "Understand before you release." Final words: recovery without reconciliation. Reconciliation seems unlikely. Deion has made peace with a new, tighter circle. Pilar is learning to find strength in solitude and spirituality. Their chapter may be closed, but the footnotes still find ways to linger. As fans, followers, and observers, maybe there's a lesson for us too. Sometimes the most powerful conversations are the quietest. Sometimes the healing isn't in reunion, but in reflection. Coach Prime is walking it out. Pilar is watching it through. And life, ever unrelenting, keeps marching forward.